Well, thank you so much for agreeing to come and do a podcast. I had to catch a few people actually told me, "Yeah, why don't you do a podcast with the chef,
That's
Chef
crazy.
Nare?" I was like, you know what, you're right, and then he walked right in front of me.
No way, that day that you
That day, I
asked
swear,
me?
yeah. I was like, you know what, you're right, and then like you walked right in front of me.
That day I was like, try this with that. It was like that.
Maybe it was, and maybe
toast
that some people
thing.
saw that,
Yeah.
and then they're like, you should do a podcast with Nare. Yeah, I was like, okay,
That's
sounds
funny.
good. Yeah, how did you get into cooking and share and just this career?
Well, from a young age, I loved to watch cooking shows.
Really?
That was my thing. I didn't
how
watch
old are you?
cartoons. 8, 7,
Really?
8, yeah.
Wow.
I was watching Julia Childs, Jacques Pepin, the Food Network when it was still like actual chefs on there, like Mario Batali, Emeril Lagasse.
Wow.
And I was just like glued
Really?
watching it, yeah.
As a little kid?
As a child, yeah.
So no cartoons?
Cartoons like once in a while, but like I always wanted to watch the cooking shows. And my mom is like, when you were little, I would ask you to make like a salad for dinner, just like cut up some cucumber, tomato, lettuce. And she's like, and you would do it as if you were on a cooking show teaching people how to do it, you know. So
Interesting.
now I'm gonna cut this cucumber like this, and like I loved it. It from a young age, it was so interesting to me. And it was just, I always knew what I wanted to do. It was kind of lucky for me, I guess, because a lot of people don't really know what they want to do, or they have so many interests, they can't pick what they want to do. For me, I always knew that's what I wanted to learn. But I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I just knew that's what I wanted to learn.
That was your passion, like you wanted to do it. If you're going to make a living from it or not.
I didn't know, yeah. So basically, I left high school at 17, and I enrolled in Pasadena City College. And I was like, I hated high school. It just was not for me. And I was like, I'll just go to PCC and just take, some AA classes and figure out, maybe what I want to do. And I was interested in photography, so I was taking photography classes back then when you had to like figure out how to use shutter speeds and f-stops and then like print your prints, like not like today where it's all digital. And I loved it. Like I think just pretty much anything where
Do you know
I got
what
to
year
use
that
my
was?
hands. 2003.
2003. Okay.
So we were still learning in school. They were still teaching us like film. It wasn't digital yet. And
Crazy, huh? It's like, what?
oh my God, it was so awesome. And I had my dad's.
Before the Matrix, right?
Yeah.
Took over.
I had my dad's like Russian USSR camera that he had, and he gave that to me to start shooting with. And it was amazing. Like I loved it. I loved the whole process of it. But something in the back of my mind was always like, but I like to cook, So one day I was working at the Lemley back then.
Yeah, I remember
Pasadena.
That. Yeah, you remember me going there?
I think I recall, yeah, there were so many people that came when I was working there. It was
I think that was the first time I met you.
It might have been.
Yeah. Because she had talked about you, and then
such a long time ago, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like the best first job ever. Like we were just like partying the entire time, you know. It was like
You were still like 17, 18
I
at
was
the time?
17. Yeah.
You're 17. Okay.
Yeah. So one day I remember like my coworker was like, "Why don't you go to cooking school? You know, you love it so much." And I was a vegetarian back then. And I was like, "Well,
Why were you a vegetarian?
because I loved animals, and it was around that time that I got Willow, my dog, and I was like, oh my God, like I can't eat another living, you know, animal. And I think for like 16 plus years, I didn't eat meat. But I did do dairy, and I never gave that up. And I had fish once in a while, but I wasn't down to like go to a traditional cooking school and like butcher animals and stuff like that.
And being Armenian.
Oh
like,
yeah,
how-
that was
Like,
unheard of.
what do you
Like,
mean you don't eat meat? Like, what?
oh my God, no one
You've
understood
seen that movie,
it.
My Big Fat Greek
Yeah.
Wedding?
Yeah. Everyone was like, what do you mean you don't eat meat? Like, you know, it's just like, oh, I'll just have a salad, you know, just
It's
like,
hilarious.
but my coworker, James, I told him, you know, I was like, there's no vegan cooking schools or vegetarian cooking schools. And he did a search and he's like, there's one in New York. And I was like, I'm not moving to New York. You know, there's no way. I thought it was totally like out of the question, you know? And so what I did was I went to the Le Cordon Bleu in Pasadena on Green Street to check out that school, and they gave me a tour. And I was like, you know what? Do you have to like cook with meat and everything here? And they're like, yeah, you do. It's like a major part of the course. And I was like, okay, I can't do that. So I started looking into the one in New York, and actually Adit helped me get all my paperwork done.
Of course, Adit.
Yeah.
Always
It's like,
Adit,
yeah, let's
right?
do this. I'm like,
Interesting, huh?
yeah, she helped me get like my paperwork done, and then I took a trip out there with my friend Allison just to like see the city. I had never been to New York. I never even wanted to go to New York. It was just not on my radar at all. And I went to this school and I was like, I like it. I think I'm going to enroll. So I did.
Where was it in New York?
It was on 23rd Street. I think it's called Chelsea, that area.
So it was in the city, like Manhattan.
It was in the city, yeah. So then I had to tell my parents. You know, it's like, tell your immigrant parents from a third world country that you want to pay money to go to
Learn how to
be
cook.
a cook.
Yeah.
You know, and they're like, what? And I was like,
Wow.
yeah, I really want to do this. This is what I want to do. And they're like, okay, fine, you know. So I went out there.
What did they want you to be?
You know, that's the thing I really I love about my parents. They never pushed anything on us. My dad was always kind of a free spirit. He still is. And he's always been pretty artsy and like nature lover, paints, you know. And my mom, she's just, you know how my mom is, just like a very mom.
Supporter.
Yeah.
She
Yeah,
supports.
totally. I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, I'm actually really, really fortunate that as far as having like Armenian parents, they didn't try to push anything on me. You know, they kind of let me figure it out and be what I wanted to be, you know. So I flew over there. My apartment was on 107th Street, so way uptown, almost by Harlem. And I got there, I was 19. I got there, I looked at my building and my apartment and like the people, and I started crying. I got on the phone with my dad. I called my dad, I was like crying, and I was like, I'm coming back. I can't do this. Like, I'm not going to stay. And he's like, you're not coming back. You started this, you know, you're going to stay and finish what you set out to do. And I was like, what the heck? Like, no, I'm coming back. And they wouldn't have it. They're like, no, you can do it. Just stay. And it was miserable, like the first few months living in New York.
How was the first night staying?
Oh my God, I just cried the whole night.
Really?
It was, I mean, the building itself was just, it was what I could afford, right? I had to take out a loan, and it was like literally a shoebox with a bed in it. And half the building was like a hostel, so there were people from other countries coming through and staying there. And the other half had like permanent tenant housing. So, I mean, the people that lived there, you know, kind of scary. The guy that ran the place, Patrick, he was like a 400-pound, huge, scary guy that I saw like running down the street with a machete chasing someone one time. And I was like, oh my God, where am I living? You know, like, or I'd come home and in the lobby, like all the paintings on the wall were crooked. There were cops there. It was just like, it was scary. And I'm just this little girl from Glendale. You know, I was like, what did I get myself into? You know, it was, it was scary, but
you stayed.
I stayed, and I made, after the initial, like, maybe 3 months or so, then I started to really love New York. But at first, I was like, it's dirty, it's loud, people are always, like, trying to run me over, you know?
People
I didn't
are rude,
get it.
Come off
Yeah.
rude.
But then once you start living in it, then you understand why they're in such a rush. You know, like, you have to make your train. You have to make it to, you know, if you're not driving. And then also from going to school, I met friends that I have until this day. And then
Were they from out of town as well?
Yeah, they were. One was from Colorado, one was from New Jersey, but actually most of them were probably in the New Jersey area. And
in the tri-state area,
in the
as they would
tri-state
say.
area, yeah. I forgot what I was thinking about next.
Just like you're still friends with those people today.
I'm still friends
It started to get easier.
Yeah, and then I had to get a job right away because I had to eat and support myself. So I got a job as a waitress at this, like a macrobiotic vegan restaurant uptown.
Okay.
Never had serving experience, but the owner took a chance on me. She liked me. She was like, yeah, come. She hired me on my birthday, actually, too. I was 19, yeah. And that was interesting. Kind of like I had to come out of my shell a lot.
Yeah, you have to be outgoing, right?
I had to, yeah.
You had to smile, you had to.
Yeah, and, you know, chat with people, you know, where I was, like, super shy. I didn't want to. But it's like I had to earn money and make a living. So it definitely living in New York, I think it just changed me so much for the better, where I really kind of grew up there, you know.
That's crazy. A lot of courage, you know, as a teenager to
right.
move to New York City.
How did I do that?
Living in, you know, Harlem and you know, halfway, whatever kind of house that was.
Oh my God, that building was crazy. Our rooms didn't even have locks on them. Like, me and my roommates would laugh about it. Like, you could just take, like, the Metro card thing and just swipe it, and the door would open. You know, there was, like, no security at all.
So you had your own room, or you shared that room with other people?
I had my own room, and then we shared a common kitchen and a bathroom.
Gotcha. Okay, that's good then, at least, right?
Yeah. So I would, like, come out of my room and socialize with the other. They were all girls too, so it was cool.
That's good.
Yeah. So yeah, then I started going to It was called the Natural Gourmet Cooking School.
Was it a vegan school?
It was vegan, but it was like also classical French. So we learned both. We learned like how to do it like the original way, and then we would veganize it and make it like take the butter out, take the cream out, take the meat out.
Interesting.
So it was really
That's
cool
why all your
because I
food
got to learn
all your food
both.
tastes good.
I got to learn, both techniques, and it was also very kind of health oriented. So Anne Marie Colbin was the founder of the school, and she was like a pioneer in the whole holistic, whole foods cooking. So I learned so much information back then that nowadays, thankfully, is becoming more mainstream.
Right.
Like the whole, I remember calling my mom after lectures and being like, Mom, stop using canola oil. It's so bad. She's like, but they say it's so good on the TV. And I was like, no, it's not. I was like, just use butter or use coconut oil. But so much stuff that basically the TV is telling you this is what's good. And then I went to that school and they're like, no, it's not.
It's all the old school stuff, right?
Yeah,
That was good for you.
Yeah.
Your grandmother and all the...
At their time, they
Back in the day.
knew that, right? And then
Right.
for some reason it shifted, and then it was all these like super processed like stuff that then they told us that's what's good for you, and it's like, well, no, it's not, So that was, I had a great time at that school. It was.
How long
awesome.
were you there for?
So the training was about 1.5 years, and then after that you had to do a bunch of hours of interning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that was fun to do my internship. I just got to bounce around like different restaurants all over New York, work for some amazing chefs, and just try to learn everything that I could.
So you bounced around to different restaurants and stuff.
Yeah. And that was...
How did you shift from working in the front of the house to the back of the house? From the
It
service?
was a lot easier for me. It's really easy for me to be in the back.
But how did that shift go from? How did you start working in the back? Because you waited. Right,
I was
for
a
bit.
waitress. Because I was out of culinary school,
Right.
so I would just apply for
once you
back-of-house
graduated.
positions. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And it's funny, in the beginning, they would always try to stick me in like pastry, in the pastry department. They're like, oh, you're so like small and like, you probably love to bake. And I actually don't love to bake.
Interesting.
Like I don't love to work with sugar a lot. I just don't have a sweet tooth. So that wasn't that like attractive to me. And I was like, no, man, I want to be on the saute station or grill or whatever, savory. So that was a whole other time where it was like really terrifying for me to go into these kitchens. Again, it was pretty male dominated.
I remember working, besides jiu-jitsu and martial arts, the only other job I had was like working at a restaurant, right? And I remember it was all guys in the kitchen. Yeah. And it was like long, it was hardcore, I'm like, man, like compared to like what the front of the house has to do compared to the back, it was like hardcore, labor, like hot, you're, long hours, you're, kind of like a little bit abusive too. I felt like,
sure.
And I was at a nicer restaurant, fine dining restaurant,
It's actually those fine dining restaurants where they work you to the bone and always someone yelling at you, and like half those chefs are always on coke.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That was my experience. I'm like, man, what's going on here,
It was a crazy time back then. I mean, I think it's settled down now these days, but back then, oh my God, it was like, I was like, what the fuck did I get myself into,
Yeah. That was my experience too. Like
Yeah.
not just the back of the house, yes, you know, especially like the more top guys, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the front of the house too. You know, that's why they would always stay in the same place. They wouldn't like move or
Yeah.
you know, move up or whatever. They would just
Yeah,
keep doing
yeah.
what they're doing. You know, they'd make a lot of money and then they would just blow it all. Like,
Yeah.
with stuff like that,
Totally.
substance abuse and
Totally.
drinking and things like that.
Like they all had problems, like either alcoholics or
Mm-hmm.
drugs or. And then there's me just trying to like.
Trying to learn.
Yeah. Funny story. My first day going into one of this restaurant I got an internship at. It was one of Jean Georges' restaurants called Spice Market. It was in the meatpacking district. I was so nervous. It was going to be my first day going in. I ate a little bit of a pot brownie just to calm myself down a little. And I was like, it's not doing anything. You know, I felt like it wasn't working. So on the train ride there, I ate a little bit more. By the time I got there, I was like out of commission. You know, it's like I cut myself super deep on the mandolin.
You went to work.
I went
with
to
like
work
that. Oh
like
my God.
that. I had cut myself really deep.
Oh my
I
God.
burned myself that day. I think I spoke back to one of the sous chefs, which is crazy. It's something I would never do if I'm not like, you know. And I remember I was like, man, they're not gonna let me come back. But they did. They asked me to come back, so I ended up finishing my time there. But I was like, I never after that day ever. I mean, that was the stupidest thing I could have done, is to not be like
100%.
yeah, in a place where there's sharp knives, fires, you know, like hot oil. It's like, what was I thinking? I think I was just so nervous that I was like, I got to do something to calm down. And then it was like a really bad idea, but it happens.
It happened.
It happened.
Hey, why do you think, you know, it's like high pressure, like stress, right? But like, why do you think, I don't want to say everybody, you know, but like, you know, there's so much like substance abuse and those kinds of things in
It's
that
the
industry.
stress.
The stress.
It's definitely the stress, and also, well, as far as the cocaine goes, it's to keep going, right?
Yeah.
Because you work really, really long hours. And
Stay
you need-
focused.
yeah, to stay kind of like alert but the stress, definitely. And then after work, like if you finish like a really busy dinner service, then we would all go out for drinks afterwards just to kind of unwind.
Yeah.
But some of them would just take it too far,
They
where
would
they would
stay
just
out all night.
all night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my experience. What
Yeah.
I saw.
And you know,
And great people too, you know, and then it's like they do the same thing year after year.
what people?
They're just the people that I worked
Yeah.
with, and they would, you know, they'd be in the same spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not everybody, but you know, a lot of
Yeah.
people.
I have to say the chefs that I learned the most from were the ones that were kind of the most humble and just kind of the most professional, you know, that weren't the party types, you know. I really kind of would absorb everything that they would tell me and teach me and just watch the way that they would work even. And I knew that I was going to learn a lot more from them than the people that were just kind of like being crazy and shouting or yelling, you know. You don't
Out of
have
control.
to. Yeah, you don't have to be that way to teach people, you know. You can just be nice and you'll get your point across and people will learn better that way than being kind of like barked at all the time.
Did you ever hear of Mark Miller?
Mark Miller?
Is it Mark Miller? Oh my God, I totally forgot. The Culinary Cafe. It was the Southwest. That was the restaurant that I worked at.
No.
Okay. It's like, I think he had a few other restaurants too.
That was in New York City?
No, it was in Santa Fe,
Oh,
but he had some
okay.
other ones in Washington D.C. and some
Uh-huh.
other pretty big restaurants. He's pretty
Yeah,
well
yeah.
known.
That's cool. Didn't you? I thought you waited tables in New York too, or am I?
No, I was
getting that
still in
wrong?
high school.
Oh, okay.
But and I wasn't 21 yet either when
Yeah.
when I worked at that restaurant. so I
Yeah.
couldn't like serve alcohol or anything. So I had to work as I was like a busser at first, you know, which is cool. And then they made me a runner, like where you take out the food, you make sure everything is on the plate, and that everything's running on time.
Yeah.
And which is really important, a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
And it was awesome because I only had to go in like a few hours, but I had a lot of responsibility, and I was young, and I made like just as much as almost some of the waiters, you know.
Yeah. It's I had one of my teachers in school. She was a chef, but she was working as a waitress. And we were like, why are you working as a waitress? You're like an accomplished chef. And she's like, I make more money serving. And that's really terrible, you know, that the people in the back who are doing basically the heavy stuff weren't getting compensated enough, you know.
Yeah.
And I think there was always kind of like a rivalry between the front of the house and back of the house too, you know, where, you know, the kitchen guys would just kind of make fun of like the servers. Oh, you come in for like 4 hours, you know, take some orders and you leave with a bunch of money.
There was resentment. There was resentment. Yeah, there is resentment, especially like the lower, like the cooks and stuff, you know. There is resentment because those guys like get hourly, and then the guys in the front of the house who don't have the years and years of training and experience, you know, being on the front lines, you know, the battlefields, you know, because it's a battlefield, right?
Totally.
It's a war, you know. It's like all these because I worked being a what do you call it, a runner or expediter, whatever you call it, bringing the food out to the people, making sure runner. I was right in front of the cooks, you know. So I became like close with a lot of them, you know. And it's crazy, you know, like all the stuff you have to manage, and the hot pans and you know the knives, everything, you know.
Yeah.
And like constantly, like especially when it's busy, right? It's like nonstop.
Yeah, it's
a war. And I was like, I was like so much respect, you know. I was like, damn, they really have to love what they do to be able to do that.
You nailed it on the head. You have to love what you do, because standing on your feet for that long, you know, your knees going in and out of the low boy, lifting heavy stuff, burning yourself, cutting yourself, like it's not for everyone. Yeah.
And to make it like the guys, well, I don't know how the thing is, but seeing some of the guys become like sous chefs and the head chefs, you know, like they've really put in the years, you know, to be able to get there.
Yeah. It's, you build yourself up, you know. We have the brigade in there. You start off maybe as like a prep cook, and then a line cook, and then sous chef, and then head chef, you know. It's like, it's still surreal to me.
What's the dessert one? What's that? Like sous chef? Pastry chef? Okay. I did like different jobs, just I don't know. I just want to try different things, and so I worked a few times on the line for the desserts.
Oh really? Oh my god!
And the creme brulee and the little fire,
with the
and
torch.
made everything. It was fun, you know.
That's so cool.
And then
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then what else did I did prep also, you know.
Nice.
Because I was like just pushing I don't know. I wanted to learn and do different things and just see, you know. But
you're you.
I don't know. Yeah, random, you know. Well, I could come in at different off times and do like the prep cook, you know.
Yeah.
Prep whatever you call it, prep
cook.
Prep. Yeah, just prepping. And then I could do the other stuff too.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Wow.
But the war zone, the actual being on the line,
God.
That's like, I was like, I need some training for that.
Yeah, you really have to build that's why they start you from like, you know,
like
prep,
the prep
and
cook,
then go up. And then it's like not even saute on the line, then it's like salads or cold appetizers.
Yeah,
and then it's hot
yeah.
appetizers, and then it's like.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because I felt like I had to, I wasn't ready for that.
Oh gosh. It's hard. It was really, really, oh my God, it's so stressful. Just the pressure of it too.
And if you mess up, right, it's like, it's you know, like the head chef or whatever, like, you know, coming down. I saw that was like the abuse part. Yeah. Totally. You know, you're working your ass off, and then you make a mistake, and then it's like on him, right?
Thankfully, I didn't get yelled at too much because I just had a really, really good work ethic, you know, but I've seen so many like fights in the kitchen. I've seen someone get punched in the face during dinner service because he was so drunk that he wasn't even making anything.
And so the chef punched the guy in the face.
And like we just kept going like nothing had happened, you know. We're like, oh my god, did you see that? But like we had to just keep getting all the tickets out. We couldn't stop and be like, oh my god, what happened?
Did he fight back, or you just took it?
He was so wasted. He just like walked out after. And then I was like, oh my god, maybe I should leave too, because it's like now I have all these tickets up. And it was like fight or flight, fight or flight. And I was like, I stayed.
So the guy showed up drunk.
Yeah.
To the battlefield,
service,
you know.
Yeah. Couldn't do anything. I mean, he was just
and
like
left all you guys hanging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the guy just punched him, and he was like, make these things, and he was just like so out of it. He got punched in the face. And I was like, oh my god. But yeah, we just kept going, and we did it without him. But then he came back like the next day, you know. He came back, and we just like acted like nothing happened and kept working. And
yeah.
Yeah.
It's so intense, you know.
It
I
is.
think from my experience, what I saw, you know, the fine dining. It was the fine dining.
In fine dining, it's almost like they treat it like the environment is like as if you're operating on someone. You know, like you have someone on the operating table and you have to like save their life, you know, and it's like, but we're just serving food. It's not that serious, you know what I mean? Like we don't have to be that crazy, you know what I mean? And I think I've evolved throughout the years where I was totally into the fine dining high end. Like I loved that environment and just like, I don't know, kind of having a lot of admiration and respect for it, and I still do for sure. The level of creativity that they have, you know, it's amazing to me.
I tell people, like, you know, like at the jungle, the Açai Jungle, you know, like it's like maybe seems like it's a, you know, like a low key thing, but it's like fine dining, but in a fun and more easy way, you know. But like the quality, everything, like you massage the kale, and you put like that same kind of
from scratch. Everything
like it's ridiculous, the thought and the ingredients and everything.
And I don't think people realize that. I think they're like, oh, it's just a cafe.
I think they do subconsciously, but that's why they keep coming back, right?
Yeah. No, I treat it like it is a fine dining, you know, like I use the best ingredients for everything, and like the techniques and everything, I try to do the best that we can, you know. And again, that just comes from what I learned, you know.
And you guys try to give the best prices.
Exactly, yeah.
With that.
Yeah.
Make it accessible, you know.
That's really important to me, to make it accessible to like everybody, because I'm over that kind of elitist thing about, you know, I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. Like I loved to go and check out like what they were doing at different like fancier restaurants and stuff. But I think there came a time where I was like, you know what? I think I appreciate just a really well-made, simple dish that's made with good ingredients that I know I can taste what I'm eating. I know what it is, and it's just clean. And I think I value that a lot more, you know? Like nowadays, it's like I don't need a pair of tweezers to be a part of, you know, the stuff on my plate. You know, it's more kind of nourishing, I think. So yeah, it's evolved for me where I was like super excited about that fancy stuff, and now I'm like, I just want it to be good.
It's what is that? Hearty food with fine dining, or fine. How would you say it? With the
like comfort food, kind of, but with I don't know,
the
gourmet,
details and gourmet,
yeah,
gourmet comfort food. Yeah.
That's what I love. That's like totally what I'm into now, you know? Like
Comfort food seems like kind of like junk food, but what you guys have, that it's health food. You know, it's like stuff is the good quality whole foods.
yeah,
You know,
good quality whole foods, I would say, yeah.
mm-hmm.
But tasty, that's number one. Flavor is number one, like always has been. You know, I never, like, I'm not gonna put a plate of alfalfa sprouts, and I don't know, you know what I mean? Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I love flavor, and I love to just enjoy what I'm eating. And if you're doing that and preparing it in the cleanest way possible, there's no reason not to enjoy it, you know? It doesn't have to be bland and boring.
We just talked a little bit about like what about fine dining and the things you love. What do you love? What are the things that you love about fine dining?
The level of creativity and skill, stuff that they will think to pair together that, you know, maybe not everyone would think about. I'm always just in awe of stuff that they'll kind of, even new techniques that they'll do, and I'm like, wow, how did you even like come up with that, you know?
The artistry, huh?
The artistry of it.
Creation of.
Yeah, I admire that a lot. And as far as, I think my strengths are like just technically, you know, like I think I'm pretty good with that, with like executing stuff, like learning it and executing it. And then the rest of it is the creativity. And sometimes it comes in bursts where I'll get an idea and I'll try to play with it. And sometimes it'll work, sometimes it doesn't, but you just try different things out. But yeah, I have a lot of respect for people that are just constantly in a creative mind, you know, because it doesn't come that easily to me. I think for me, it's more like getting it done and doing it. So yeah.
Well, I appreciate going to the Jungle Cafe and people asking, "Aren't you tired of eating here?" I'm like, no.
Wow, thanks.
Because like you have those seasonal items too, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I you know I like, it's convenient, right? Because it's next door. But man, like, everything's so good, so delicious and healthy.
Thank you. It definitely means.
So you feel good after.
It means a lot to see like repeat customers that have been coming in from day one, you know, and like you said earlier, I think because we are very accessible, you know, we don't just charge just random prices just because we can, you know. At the end of the day, food is meant to nourish us, and it's a necessity that we all need, you know, and not everybody has the luxury of being able to spend a ton of money on that. So if you can, you know, give a good tasting plate of food that was made well, and people will appreciate that it's, you know, you're not charging like $20 for avocado on bread. Yeah. That's it. You know.
So you lived in, you went to school was a year and a half, and then going back to New York, and then how long did you live in New York?
3 years.
3
total,
years.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, man.
That was your college, huh?
That was my college. That's what I tell people. Yeah. Because I left high school. I didn't have the high school experience. I hated it. PCC was fun because I was working at the Lemley and just like, you know, hanging out there. And then, New York was like my college. It was awesome. I would love to maybe be able to live there again someday. Not the city, but on the East Coast.
Okay.
for sure.
Like that cold, huh?
I don't like the cold. I don't.
So the summertime.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'll go there in the summertime. I'll come
fall.
back here for winter because I don't do well with the cold, which is funny because like Armenia, I was born there, and it gets freezing over there too.
Yeah.
But you live in LA, you get so used to it.
Yeah.
Like the mild weather.
And also it's always sunny here too, which is nice.
I love it. I have to have the sunshine.
Yeah.
If it's gray out,
and East Coast, it's gray a lot.
It is, but it's like it doesn't bother me as much out there for some reason. I don't know why. It bugs me here when the sun's not out. Maybe because I expect it to be out all the time here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you came back to LA, and then you started to how did you start working in the food? What did you start doing when you got back?
I just started applying to restaurants, and luckily, I never really had a problem finding a job in the kitchen. I mean, no one does. There's always
because there's not too much. Like I'm trying to remember when I worked at the restaurant, there weren't that many females in the kitchen. It's kind of like jiu-jitsu in a way, because it's so like a hardcore.
Yeah.
And you have Nare in there, like going to New York City, working in these crazy male-dominated environments.
It was not easy, like especially back then. I was like even smaller. I was like 100 pounds, and then it's like all these like huge, big, like pirate-looking men, and then me, and I'm like,
yeah, that's what I remember too.
But I don't know. I think I was just stubborn too, and I was like, I'm gonna do it, and I'm not gonna like. I'm gonna prove. I felt like I had to prove myself. Like you're probably looking at me thinking I can't do anything, but that made me want to show them even more. Like I do have knowledge, I do have skill, and and a lot of them were very, like nice and kind about it, but there was also that kind of like macho culture in there that's very kind of, sometimes it would get too competitive, and I don't like that. I don't like treating it like it's a competition, going back to like food is food. It's something that we all need, and I don't.
It's love. It's good energy.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't like that kind of aggressive, like, kind of, well, the environment it is in there. But yeah, usually I was the only female in the kitchen. And I just had to learn to kind of like fend for myself, and like, it definitely made me stronger and gave me more confidence, especially when I felt like the head chef would notice like my work ethic and give me a compliment. That was like the biggest thing in the world, if you got one compliment from the chef, it meant so much to me that, they saw it and realized that I was like a hard worker and I loved what I was doing, and that comes through. So like nowadays, when I'm hiring for the kitchen in interviews, sometimes I won't even look at their resume, really. I just want to meet them, and then just from talking to someone, you feel them out.
You get a feeling.
And I don't know, I'm sure it might be applied to other industries too, but someone can have like the best resume on paper, like they've worked at this place and that place and blah, blah, blah. But then once I get them in the kitchen and they don't know how to cut or hold a knife properly, that all goes out the window. So it's important for me to kind of like assess the person's personality, like, am I going to be able to work side by side with this person in a cramped space and not get annoyed by you, you know, like that kind of stuff usually comes out when you're talking to them, you know.
Interesting.
So then I'll invite them back for a training shift or a stage, maybe for like 3-4 hours, just to see how they actually work in the kitchen, you know, their movements and their attitude, you know. It's you always want someone who's actually has an interest a little bit, you know, and they're curious about it and
open to learning and improving
open to
themselves,
learning.
wanting to improve.
Exactly,
wanting
because
to do
a
better.
lot of people are just like, they think they're the shit, you know, and just you get them in there and I'm like, wow, you're not doing what
The fixed mindset, right? Not the growth mindset.
Yeah, which is so bizarre to me, that it's like, how do you feel like you're done, you've learned everything you can, you know?
Yeah.
We're always learning.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. So how did the Açai Jungle Cafe? Because there's a little article on the wall with you in the cart in the front, the what is it called? The driveway, not driveway, but the parking area in the front of the gym. Yeah. You and Adit, and you know.
So I had just quit my job where I was a sous chef in Studio City. And I was in between jobs, and Adit was like, I have a acai cart, I'm serving acai. Do you want to just do a few hours just for some extra money? I was like, yeah, sure. So I did that for a short while. And then she was like, this place next door to the gym is empty, you know, and she was like, I think I want to take it over and open up like a acai cafe. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then she was like, would you want to, like, you know, hop on board and make a menu, you know, just keep it simple and small and like healthy-ish. And I was like, sure. And I might have hesitated, because I always hesitate about everything that's new. But I was like, okay, sure, let's do it. I think by that point, I had the confidence to do it. If you had asked me like a couple years earlier, I wouldn't have done it, because
to be able to create a menu, to be able to
run it. Yeah, I wouldn't have
be the head.
Yeah.
The head. The chef.
The timing was perfect, because I had a ton of responsibility at the place that I had left. And I felt, you know, strong enough to be like, yeah, I think I can do this. So started working on the menu and then just putting it all together, and this is what we got. 7.5 years later. We didn't think it was going to get this big.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you surprised by the reactions and the environment that...
I am. I mean, it was, it's...
Getting through the pandemic, just everything in between, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, putting before here, I was like a sous chef or a line cook, so I was putting other people's food out. And then it was going to be my own food that I'm going to put out. So I was like, oh my God, what if people hate it? What if it doesn't, you know, what if it sucks, blah, blah, blah. But again, I think it came back to that I had kind of worked my way up to that level where I was like, I think I can do this now, and it'll be good, you know?
You're on the battlefield enough to be like, I can do this.
Yeah. I had enough experience where I felt like I'll be able to do this, you know? But like I said, if she had asked me like even 2 years before, I would have said, no, I'm not ready yet. But each place just kind of gave me more and more experience to feel confident enough to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. What's I'm gonna, 'cause people are asking me, I should ask her like all these you know, crazy questions. What's the the craziest like request that just say crazy, but just like out there requests for changes on the food or
craziest
say
request.
pet like things that like what are you talking about?
Oh, um, there have been a few, and every time a ticket like that comes up, like my line cooks or whatever will just look at it and kind of laugh and be like, what do they mean they want this with no this or that, or but I can't think of one off the top of my head right now.
What are some challenges at the in creating the menu, but just also the daily, like a daily challenge or weekly challenge that you that's
I would say kind of quality control and making sure that I have a really terrific team in there. I love them and appreciate them so much. I think just kind of making sure that they're holding up to the standard that I expect, so not cutting corners or not kind of eyeballing or tweaking things. I'm a very kind of
following the steps.
Yeah, I'm very
not cutting corners.
I'm kind of strict with that, and then just not even just with the food, but just kind of the environment that I like to have in there. Like I said, I don't want that kind of old mentality kitchen where it's just like talking down to people or
ego stuff.
I really can't stand that. So just making sure that it's everyone's getting along and it's a good environment, and that they want to be there.
Creating the food with love.
Yeah. and you know what, I think they see that and they appreciate it. And kitchens usually have a really high turnover rate, and my guys have stayed with me for years. And they tell me like, I like working here, I like the environment. And it's like, yeah, because, you have two women kind of, we have that kind of, I don't know, more nurturing, I guess, aspect, and not kind of that male, like.
It's interesting.
Yeah. And I'm also just really picky with like being focused when they're there. I don't mind like chatting here and there, but I'm like, you need to focus on what you're doing. And I don't allow cell phones in there. I don't allow earphones, so that you can't just go off and to the corner and put your earphones on and do, like you have to be alert and know what everybody else is doing, help when you need to, just be really aware of your surroundings. So I think just the day-to-day operations of making sure the food is coming out how I want it to be. In the beginning, it was hard for me to let go because I wanted to do everything.
Control everything.
I wanted to control everything. And I was getting burnt out. And I was telling one of my friends who's a chef, I was like, man, I'm like, I can't let go of like passing this on to someone else to do. And he's like, you have to do it. You can't do all of it by yourself. Just trust them, like just show them and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. And what I realized actually about myself is I like teaching, and I've gotten people that used to work in the kitchen have emailed me and been like, I had a great time working for you and I've learned so much from you. And that, I think that makes me feel the best, is that I can give my knowledge to these guys now, just like that it was passed on to me. So I think people appreciate the workers in there, appreciate that they're not just coming in and mindlessly doing stuff that they have to do. They're actually also learning techniques and learning methods of
growing,
stuff.
getting better,
Yeah.
becoming better people. You're making a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And for me, seeing them step up to like a leadership position, you know, it's like it makes me so happy. Makes it's so fulfilling to see that, you know, that they're getting something out of it too.
I was gonna ask you the question, like, what's your favorite part? And yeah, I think maybe you just
Yeah,
answered that.
I think teaching like the whatever I can, you know, and passing on the knowledge of. So instead of just saying like, do this and hand them the recipe, I'll go through it with them and I'll tell them exactly why they're going to do it this way or that way. You know, I like to be very thorough and like, it's also better for them to understand the why and not just here, do this, you know. So if you make a mistake, they can go back and be like, oh, it's because I didn't add salt in this step or whatever, you know. And then seeing them grow, like now when I make something, I'll ask like maybe three different people, like, can you taste this? Tell me what it needs. What is it missing? And I want them to kind of get involved and start thinking about that too, you know? And it makes, I think they like it too because they have kind of an interest in it.
If you had to go back in time to 18-year-old Nare, would you have done anything different, or what would you have told yourself?
I wouldn't have done anything different. I would have told myself to be less fearful. I heard a quote recently. I think it was like Jordan Peterson or something. It was like, face what you're afraid of most and you will be free. And I think I would just freak myself out about everything so much. And if I had to look back, I would just be like, just don't be so afraid of change, of stuff that's uncomfortable, you know?
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you so much for your courage, you know, because of your courage, I get to enjoy delicious food your delicious food almost every day.
Thank you,
And
Alberto.
you and so many other people in our neighborhood and people that come to Açai Jungle Cafe. I appreciate you. It was so nice talking to you and getting like some of the roots stories, you know. And I know she's always talked about you and always been really proud of you. And it's just really cool to see just this whole thing happen, being created, you know, and come, like you were saying, like it did help me do the paperwork, you know.
Yeah.
Of course you did, right? Like because and now it's like kind of a, you know, full circle thing.
Yeah.
And really grateful, and really inspired by you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alberto. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And I mean, also just being a part of, you know, your little empire over here, you know. Made some really good friends with all the people here, you know. It's like just such a positive, nice place to be. I couldn't have asked for a better setup. Yeah.
Yeah, we're all helping, trying to make a difference and make the world a little bit better, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So thank you
Totally.
again.
Sure, thank you
for doing your
having
part,
me.
doing our part.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alberto.